Right now on the National Weather Desk, travel disruptions, how stormy weather could cause big delays on the roads and airports leading up to Thanksgiving. We're returning to Iceland, where people are nervously awaiting a volcanic eruption. Large wildfires continue to burn in the mountains of Virginia and North Carolina. Did you know the weather played a pivotal role in the Pilgrims' story, including their decision to leave England, their voyage to the New World, and their first winter here? And is your chimney ready for winter? We have tips to make sure it isn't a fire hazard.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Thanksgiving travel is in full swing, but the weather is not cooperating. A cross-country storm is heading for the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. It will bring heavy rain, wind, and maybe even some snow over the next 2 days. There's also a slight risk of severe storms from the Gulf Coast across the South. Some of the busiest airports are in the path of the storm, including Atlanta, Charlotte, and all 3 New York airports. That could mean delays for the 30 million Americans planning to fly for the holiday. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says the FAA is ready.
National Weather Service meteorologists are housed at the FAA's 22 centers handling high-altitude traffic, and they provide down-to-the-minute weather predictions for exact arrival and departure routes in the busiest parts of the U.S. airspace.
Today, tomorrow, and Sunday are the busiest days to fly. Sunday could break a record with nearly 3 million people taking to the skies. It's not the rain, but the wind that's been the big weather story in California. Santa Ana winds started blowing through Southern California yesterday, and they will likely continue today. Wind gusts of up to 75 miles per hour blew through the San Bernardino and Riverside County valleys, whipping palm trees and downing fences. And check this out, the winds were so strong they flipped a small plane at John Wayne Airport in Orange County. The Cessna was reportedly taxiing down the runway when the wind pushed the nose down. When the pilot got out to check the plane, the wind flipped it over. No one was injured. The runway reopened about 40 minutes after that incident. It's been more than a week since Iceland went on high alert, preparing for what officials describe as a volcano's imminent eruption. While the number of earthquakes has decreased significantly, the nation is still preparing for an eruption. Fred Pleitkin is in Iceland with more.
It's a race against time. Residents only have a few minutes to gather some items, then they have to get out of Grindavik fast. The town in southwestern Iceland is right in the path of a possible volcanic eruption.
You had to leave quickly, or?
Yeah, Friday night.
What was that like?
Yeah, it was horrible.
The brute force of steam from a massive underground magma stream already bursting through the streets and homes here, causing massive damage. Those rushing out understand their homes, their town, their community might soon be gone for good.
The lava tunnel is laying very close to our house, so we are expecting to lose everything if it will erupt.
Iceland is in what's called a hotspot, where magma often breaks through the Earth's crust and can result in massive eruptions. And what happens here can affect large parts of the globe. In 2010, ash spewed into the atmosphere by a volcano in Iceland brought transatlantic air travel to a virtual standstill for weeks. Iceland's government says this time around the effects could also be devastating, with a geothermal power plant that supplies energy to the main airport in harm's way.
They are working 24/7 to try and dig a trench to redirect the lava if it comes to the surface.
Government experts acknowledge they're not certain the barrier would prevent lava from damaging the power plant. A geophysics team from the University of Iceland is flying research missions with drones inside the danger zone. This eruption won't necessarily be the biggest, but one of the most dangerous, Professor Magnus Tumi Gudmundsson tells me.
The real danger is that eruption may break out somewhat to the north, and the lava may then reach the town in a day, 2 or 3, 4 days.
We continue to monitor 2 large wildfires still burning in the southern Appalachian Mountains. The so-called Match Creek Fire in Virginia is now in its 10th day and burned over 10,000 acres. So far, it has not threatened any homes. Firefighters hope today's rain will help them put out those flames. Thick smoke from the fire has caused health concerns. In North Carolina, the winds could cause problems for firefighters battling the Black Bear wildfire. Rich Hodge is near Asheville with that story.
The Southern Area Blue Team says it's a one-day-at-a-time battle against flames and smoke in the Interstate 40 corridor. Crews are watching for any flare-ups with Monday winds gusting up to 25 miles per hour at the ridgetops. They're cutting containment lines. Cold Springs Creek Road is closed, along with the Appalachian Trail from Interstate 40 to Brown Gap.
So that's something for hunters to be aware of, campers to be aware of, that there are some sections that won't be accessible during this holiday weekend coming up.
Matt Switzer says most fire activity is at lower elevations now. No structures have burned and no evacuations. He says steady Tuesday rain will put a big dent in this fire, but heavier fuels like logs and stumps will continue burning, with smoke lingering along the interstate, which remains open into the holiday weekend.
Thousands of acres have burned in western North Carolina since November started. A local fire department put on a workshop after residents of Black Mountain took to social media. Ed Diorio has details on how it came together in a Facebook group.
In this year's Fire Prevention Week,
Becky Janes's home is surrounded by forest. She's lived there for decades, and she says the recent wildfires have her concerned. It's the worst wildfire season she remembers.
Wildfires in our area have gotten even worse, so it's increased the importance of people learning how they can, make their houses safer.
Janes took to Facebook, asking if other people would be interested in learning more on how to protect their homes and property from wildfires and how to prevent them.
Got a lot of positive response, probably over 60 positive responses, people saying, yes, great idea, I want to be there, I want to go to the training.
you've got the fire right there that can start in that gutter.
With the help of the Black Mountain Fire Department, the Prepping Your Home for Wildfire Workshop was created. Monday night, Fire Marshal Doug Morrow went over a few key points that will help protect homes from fire damage.
Leaves not piled up underneath the house, gutters cleaned out, just removing some of the fuels that are going to help ignite the house further away gives us a better opportunity to help protect it.
Morrow added sharing this type of information with the community also helps firefighters.
Or anything that we can put out there to help, the community, help us do our job better and keep them safer, it's all worth it.
The Earth has passed a devastating milestone. The world briefly smashed the 2-degree warming limit for the first time, according to preliminary data. That's the critical threshold scientists have been warning for decades could have a catastrophic impact on the planet. While this shows the planet is getting hotter, it does not mean the world is in a permanent state of warming above 2 degrees. The USDA is out with a new plant hardiness zone map. It's the national standard for gardeners and growers, helping to determine which plants are most likely to survive the coldest winter temperatures and their location. Meteorologist Emily Gracie gives us a look at what's changed.
Attention all gardeners, the U.S. Department of Agriculture recently updated its plant hardiness zone map for the first time in 10 years, showing climate change's impact on gardens nationwide. These zones show the coldest temperature each area averages, so you know what plants can survive the winter. As winters warm across most of the country, the zones are shifting north. Across the lower 48, the overall lowest temperature is now 2.5 degrees warmer than it was a decade ago. This could make New Englanders pretty happy. Fig trees now survive without protection, camellias and southern magnolias endure recent winters without frost damage. But there is a downside. Milder winters also mean less population control on disease-carrying ticks and mosquitoes. It can also expand the range of harmful or invasive species like kudzu. Also, hotter, drier summers may kill off plants that used to thrive in certain regions. But as climate changes, so must our gardens, and the new map provides new guidance on what's likely to thrive in your area. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, as Thanksgiving approaches, we'll see the critical role weather played in the Pilgrims' voyage from England to the New World. And we'll take a look at what you need to do now to get your chimney ready for the winter ahead.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. It's a chilly start in the Northeast with clear skies for most areas. Parts of western New York will get into some rain and snow during the afternoon. For the rest of the Northeast, we'll just have thickening clouds. That's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Here comes some rain, heavy at times during the overnight and into Wednesday morning. That's particularly true in New England, especially southern New England. Northern New England, ski country will get some beneficial snow. Thanksgiving looks partly sunny, a bit breezy with highs in the 40s.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Up and down the 95 corridor gets kind of ugly for a day on Tuesday. A lot of travel getaways here for pre-Thanksgiving, and it looks like a lot of rain coming down, especially afternoon into the evening. Look at some of those reds, yellows, and oranges as the next weather maker moves in. High temperatures only at 51 in Baltimore. Temperatures in the low to mid 50s down into Richmond, and only some 40s from Cumberland down to Roanoke. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vetus Reed. Looking at your southeast forecast highs for the day, we're seeing temperatures in the 60s across parts of the southeast and the 70s ahead of a cold front that's going to be pushing through. And it looks like it could fire off some severe storms and heavy downpours. Down in Florida, looking at those temperatures nice and warm in the 80s. So as we go through the morning, it looks like this front, which caused some severe storms back in Louisiana and Mississippi, will make its way through Alabama and through the Carolinas and Tennessee through the morning and then into the afternoon. Travel could have a little impact, especially along parts of I-95 through the evening.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
With Thanksgiving just 2 days away, we want to take a closer look at the role weather played for the Pilgrims. It was significant, from their decision to leave England on their voyage here and the harsh winter here in the New World. Emily Gracie helps us better understand the weather story behind the first Thanksgiving.
It feels as if there's sort of weather coming up from the ocean, and the seas start to what they call become overgrown, and the waves are 100 foot high, and then the mainsail cracks, the mast cracks, and if they can't make that work, sort of stick it together as it were, they're going to have to turn back to England, and then they kind of come through and they suddenly hear birds singing, and the sailors tell them that that is a sign of land, and then they get near, they sort of get to above Provincetown, what is now Provincetown, and they're going to go south and go on to Virginia because that's where there is a colony. And then they get alarmed because the seas are so rough. They sort of think, I think it's safer to just go back to land. And then they land on what is now Provincetown, and they are all incredibly relieved.
But they didn't stay in Provincetown. And did that have to do with the conditions and the weather?
It does. And it's also to do with the fact that Provincetown is lovely, but there aren't any there's no sort of real water supply. It's sandy. And there's also a problem because the weather is getting much worse. And that's when they sort of sail about on a sort of small dinghy. And that's when they find Plymouth.
Tell me about that winter and what they experienced.
Well, I think they were just unprepared for what they were going to experience. I think that was one of the problems. They really didn't know what they were up against. They hadn't brought the right clothes. They hadn't bought fishing nets, and they hadn't bought corn. It might not be a really harsh winter, but it is a winter with lots of snow, and they haven't met the Native Americans yet, so they don't know about snowshoes. They don't know about anything.
To hear more about the weather journey of the Pilgrims, make sure you check out this week's episode of our podcast, Off the Radar. You'll find it anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Being a farmer during a drought requires persistence and also creativity. As Drew Powell shows us, farmers in the Texas Panhandle are turning to technology to help conserve water while still watering their crops.
It's up to the farmers to grow more pounds of food and fiber on the same or less acres in order to help feed the world.
We're under the microscope on using less water, less chemicals, being more efficient with our soils, and being more environmentally sound and friendly. Every day is a challenge.
Ryan Wick adds it can be done. They just need help from Mother Nature in the form of rain. The state of Texas has more than 1,300 soil types, so knowing what's underground is crucial for growing crops and having to irrigate before and after seed is planted in the ground. Planning for how much resources you're going to need while implementing water-saving techniques is something they focus on daily.
All over the United States and even in the state of Texas, the soil varies greatly, so one thing may work in one area and it doesn't work in the others, but it's always nice to look at other places and see if what they're doing might benefit your operation.
The water planning process is very much a long-term planning process where we're looking over water demands and supplies over a 50-year plus horizon.
Spring rains combined with too many days of excessive wind shows you how producers are at the mercy of Mother Nature.
We did have the rain in May, but most of it ran off into the Playa Lakes. Famous saying among farmers is, there's always next year.
Nevada is taking action to educate people about the state's floodplains and flooding risks. The installation of a new high water marker last week was the latest step. Audrey Mayer has more.
So these high water markers are really helpful to show people what these floodplains can look like.
If you were standing in this spot last spring, you would be submerged in up to 2 feet of water. This area is called a floodplain, and experts tell me it's important to preserve these areas to protect water quality, keep habitat alive for wildlife, and prevent flooding in urban areas. When snowmelt runoff comes down from the mountains, it all ends up on this land, making the valley floor look almost like a lake. Douglas County, in partnership with the Nature Conservancy and the Army Corps of Engineers, unveiled their new high water mark sign Wednesday in an effort to educate the public on flooding risks and the importance of having a floodplain.
The Carson Valley is really fortunate in that their floodplains have been pretty well protected, and in contrast to some other communities where there is development much closer to those rivers and waterways. For example, in the 1997 flood, Reno experienced about 30 times more economic damage from that flood than the Carson Valley did.
This specific floodplain near the Carson River stretches more than 800 acres. It allows rivers and creeks to swell beyond their banks, just as it did in our last flooding event in spring of 2023. According to studies from the University of Nevada, settlers used the floodplain in the 1850s to grow crops and naturally irrigate pastures. Today, about 160 years later, farms and ranchers still occupy the area.
Colder weather means more people will start using their fireplaces. But do you know if your chimney is actually clean? If it's not clean, you are at risk of a chimney fire, one of 25,000 that happened in the U.S. every single year. Sean English has more.
Mike Filipski with Chimney Sweeps says chimneys should be inspected annually, but you should also know the ins and outs just in case.
You're trying to look for any obstructions if you can. If there aren't any, then you should be all right. You should know how to open and close that damper. You should know how to open and close the doors on there and do everything properly to make it safe for your family.
Filipski is a former firefighter who started his business after responding to chimney fires. He says avoiding cleaning your chimney is not worth the danger.
For people that do use the fireplace a lot and they don't get it cleaned, they risk having a chimney fire. The creosote that builds up inside the chimney will catch on fire. It will destroy the chimney, even a masonry chimney. It'll break it down because it burns so hot and so fast.
Assistant Chief Gerard Ellis says chimney fires can cause a serious amount of damage, and putting them out can also cause more damage. He says the path of least resistance is to call a professional.
Just recently we've had one, and I think we've had two so far this fall, but there are some precautions that residents can take to make sure that their chimneys are working correctly and up to date, and that way they don't have to call us out there if there is a chimney fire.
Speaking of cold weather, have you ever wondered how fast snowflakes fall during a snowstorm? Let's turn to meteorologist Natalie Walters to find out.
So let's say the snowflakes are falling from the clouds, which are about 10,000 feet aloft, which 10,000 feet is approximately 1.9 miles. And the speed of a snowflake falling is on average about 2 miles per hour, which means it's going to take about an hour for that snowflake to travel from the cloud all the way to the ground.
As we head to break, we take in views of the New York City skyline.
Good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. We do have rain across the Ohio Valley, even some wintry mix there to the north. This is all going to be moving its way out to the east, but if you are traveling today, it looks dry across the plains. Let's get into your Wednesday here. Pretty quiet for most of the Midwest as that system continues off towards New England. So pretty quiet for the Wednesday travel across the Midwest. Looking pretty good for Thanksgiving on Thursday as well. Our next system starting to try to sneak in from the west Thursday, but most of the Midwest remaining dry.
Good Tuesday morning to you, meteorologist Chris Suchet. Look at our forecast across the region. Cold front moving off to the east, taking showers and storms with it. In its wake, gusty winds, patchy clouds, and a cool, refreshing day. Highs in the 50s and 60s all the way down into deep South Texas. Wednesday morning starts off with a chill in the air, 30s and 40s in the morning, and it's a day of sunshine. And again, a cool day with 50s and 60s and a lot less on the wind gusts as well Wednesday.
Well, hi, everybody. It is Tuesday morning. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. If you're getting ready to travel here pre-Thanksgiving, not too shabby out west. In fact, San Diego basking in the sunshine and back to 80 degrees in Southern California. Cool around the Wasatch, 46 out of Salt Lake City and 54 today out of Seattle. Our next weather maker will be this good-sized front coming toward the Pacific Northwest. It brings rain toward Puget Sound and the Willamette Valley after dark Tuesday night. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
The holiday spirit is in full swing in San Antonio, Texas, and residents are now skating on the city's downtown outdoor ice rink. Meteorologist Joe DiCarlo shows us how ice rinks stay frozen even during the city's mild winters.
We do have an industrial chiller. This is real ice. We have staff that's here managing and maintaining the ice at a very high level.
I'm told it's like a fridge that holds freezing temperatures on the ice. The rink ice is 4 inches thick, and direct sun in the middle of the day may melt about a ½ inch of ice away. However, the 3½ inches of ice that is left stays frozen once the sun goes down. You may see some puddles from the melting ice, but it is nothing of concern. The only problem would be if the air temperature is over 90 degrees for more than 6 hours, which is highly unlikely this time of year.
There's always a 100% chance of snow here at Travis Park.
We'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Tuesday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.